Andy Johnson, Minnesota State University. We are looking at developing thinking skills in the context of reading instruction. Keep it simple. This is taken from my book, a lot of this stuff up and out, using creative and critical thinking skills to enhance learning. First of all, let's define our terms. A thinking skill is any cognitive process broken down into steps and taught explicitly. Inference. That is how you define it. One must integrate observed clues with background knowledge in order to make an informed guess or prediction. And here are the steps. Identify the question or point, identify what is known, make a reasoned guess. That, by the way, is called a thinking frame. Cognitive process broken down into steps and taught explicitly. And I recommend the use of graphic organizers to teach and develop these thinking skills. Here's an example of one. What do you think Dorothy's life was like when she returned to Kansas? Now, an inference is not a guess. It's a reasoned guess based on clues. And we would first get students to identify the clues and make their inference based on the clues. That's how you develop the cognitive process of inferring. Thinking frame, again, are the specific steps of a cognitive process listed out in poster form so that you can teach them. And thinking skills should be taught explicitly using the elements of effective skills instruction. Graphic organizers use them to teach, develop thinking skills. Here's another example, supporting a statement. That's a cognitive process, using reasons or details to support a statement. Here's the thinking frame broken down into steps. Here is a graphic organizer. I will be a great teacher, and then students identify and list reasons or details to support that statement. Now, a difference between critical thinking and creative thinking. A thinking skill is any cognitive process broken down into steps. Critical thinking is thinking that converges on a point. Creative thinking is thinking that diverges into many points. In developing students' ability to think, we teach the process to develop the skill, meaning a skill is something you do automatically without thinking about it. We want to develop these processes so students do this automatically. They don't have to go through the steps. They automatically think of a detail and supporting statements. To teach these, to develop this, you teach in large group many times, have students do it in small groups so they can talk to each other. Thinking moves from outside to in. Conversation and talk is good, it enhances thinking. And then students do this individually. So whenever you teach a cognitive process, large group to small group pairs to individuals. And again, creative thinking skill, thinking that diverges, and we're going to look at some of these. E. Paul Torrance says 4 kinds of thinking are involved in creativity. Fluency, thinking of many different things. Flexibility, a variety of different things. Elaboration, making something better. And originality, something totally unique, outside the box, something that no one has thought of before. Now, here are some creative thinking skills. Again, cognitive processes, the definition is in red, broken down into steps. These are the thinking frames. Put them up in a poster form and teach these steps explicitly, all right? Through direct instruction, guided practice, modeling, and then independent practice. Here are 4 cognitive processes, and here are 3 more. And the neat thing about this is you can use these thinking skills to develop your own activities and assignments. All right, so activities. Here are some examples. Generating list of adjectives related to teaching. Generate ways to demonstrate knowledge. Brainstorming webs are great pre-writing and pre-reading activities. Now, this is a common standard or core standard. After reading, students are asked to identify the main ideas and supporting details. This is a cognitive process. Teach the process to develop the skill, large group, small group, individual. as a post-reading activity, you would teach this cognitive process many times. Eventually, they would be able to do it themselves. I like the Web and Brainstorm, this neat graphic organizer. Here is the main idea, supporting details, and they brainstorm on each one. All right? Teach the process to develop the skill. As a pre-reading activity or strategy, activate relevant schemata. Generate ideas relevant to the topic that is to be read. You record these on the board. If you want to extend this, ask students to create groups and describe their list in terms of groups and numbers of each group. All right, a whole list of stuff, that is fluency. But then to insert a critical thinking skill in there, creating groups, students have to look for groups and describe the whole in terms of groups and numbers within each group. Fluency is a post-reading strategy or activity. Students brainstorm or create a list of interesting or important ideas found in the chapter, and then students can list the items and put them in some sort of order. Chronological order, sequential order, most interesting to least interesting, biggest to smallest, etc. All right? 2 examples there. Elaboration is a creative writing strategy. Examine a character, event, scene, or item. All right? Add interesting detail. Describe other items that might be included. Add details, descriptive adjectives. Add other interesting characters, events, or items not included in the story. Create a drawing of a scene, adding details the author did not describe. All right, elaboration. And then originality. Look for a problem in the story. Look for or design new applications or solutions to that problem. Originality. Just some examples. All right, a critical thinking skill is thinking that converges on a point. This is what most people think of when they think of thinking skills, but there is a difference between critical thinking and creative thinking, critical thinking skills and creative thinking skills. Again, here is the cognitive process. Here is the thinking frame broken down into steps. If you want students to be able to think this way, you have to teach the process explicitly. Teach the process to develop the skill. Here are 4 of them. You can stop the video if you wish. And here are 4 more. These make great activities or gives you ideas, provides ideas to create your own activities. As an example, ordering. And again, this is a Common Core standard. Students will be able to retell main events or ideas in sequence, generate a list of important events, look at the criteria, put events in order from first to last. And again, here is a neat graphic organizer. Generate the list, identify the criteria, put them in order. An example, what are 5 things that happen in the story? Here are different criteria. Order of importance, chronologically, least likely to most, interesting, boring, happy, sad, good to evil, etc. All right? The criteria you have is not nearly as important as teaching the process to generate things first, look at the criteria second, and then put them in order based on the criteria. That's the cognitive process. Compare and contrast, another common cognitive process. A Venn diagram, here's the process. Find things that are the same, doop. Things that are different, doop, doop. Identify a big idea or conclusion that you notice as a result. I like to use what I call a comparison chart. It's very similar, just this seems a little easier for students, a little less abstract. Look at the whole or both of them, find similarities, differences, and then describe any big idea that you might have. Again, comparison chart, similarities, differences. It's the lines that go across that help students make that direct comparison. Creating groups. Generate a list of things. Put them in a group and describe the whole in terms of a group. So look at the whole, identify recurring themes or patterns, and arrange into groups. Evaluation. Make a formal critique based on a set of criteria. All right? So you have to define criterion first. Look at the subject and rate and compare subject to criteria. All right? This is a great post-reading activity where you look at a book and you rate or rank based on the whole. For example, what are 4 things that a good book should have? Identify criterion first and then rate the book on these criteria. This naturally leads students to talk about genre and how you can't use the same criteria. We already talked about supporting the statement And we have this nice supportive statement. Dorothy was brave. Identify the criteria. Predicting. Look at the question, identify facts, clues, make a guess based on the clues. Predictogram. What will happen next as you're reading? Clues and then a prediction. Comparing. Again, a cognitive process, and we use a compare graph. This enables you to compare many things, generate attributes here, and then you look for similarities or differences. Another type of compare graph, bad days, characters, ideas, or conclusions. Comparison T-chart, graphic organizer. Analyze, break an item or event down into its component parts. Look at the item, identify parts, describe the whole in terms of parts. For example, beginning parts, middle parts, ending parts. You could have happy parts, sad parts, interesting parts, boring parts, big parts, little parts, all right? The type of part doesn't matter as much as the cognitive process, looking at the whole and identifying the different components. The big point, use thinking skills to create activities and assignments and to differentiate instruction. Keep it simple. I know there's two T's there.